Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the MAVA Podcast, Mexican American Vendor Association. I'm your host today, Daniel Jimenez, and I'm joined with a very special guest, Wichita Falls owner of Music Makers, Daniel Aguirre. Daniel, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, well thank you for coming out and joining with us and talking about your story and everything. So just talk about a little bit, where are you from? Are you originally from the area or?
No, I grew up in Alice, Texas, which is about 40 miles south of Corpus Christi. My mother and my grandmother were born in Alice, and my father was born in Corpus Christi.
Wow, so going up off the coast a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So probably a lot of beach days or anything like that for you?
No.
No? You just stayed home. You just like staying home.
I didn't like the salt.
That's definitely understandable too, especially
Yeah.
me living closer inland too here in Texas. You know, I didn't go out there, so I didn't like it that much either myself.
Yeah.
So
well, it's definitely different.
right. And so,
Yeah.
how'd you get all the way over here in Wichita Falls? Like I said, you're the owner of Music Makers. You know, what brought you all the way over here?
Okay, it was a long trip. I was in college majoring in music in Corpus Christi, and after 2 years, a buddy of mine, a student, was a part-time band director at the Catholic Church, and he said, "Danny, can you come and help me and help me with the lower brass instruments?" And I said, "Sure." So I lasted 3 days, and I said, "I can't handle this anymore. You know, I'm not I can't handle kids that aren't interested. You know, from my perspective, I mean, I was gung-ho. I practiced 4, 5, 6 hours a day. And when you ask somebody, you know, why didn't you practice? Well, you know, don't you care? No. You know, and so I thought, that's it. So I decided that I was going to get out of the Air Force. Out of the college. So I went to, my band director in the 8th grade had just gotten released from the Army. He spent 2 years in the Army. He was with the 6th Army Band stationed in San Antonio. And so I knew in the back of my mind that there was a place for me somewhere in the musical field. But I didn't want to be in San Antonio. That's only an hour and a half from the back door of my house. So I thought, well, let me go talk to the Air Force guy. So I went to the Air Force recruiter in Corpus Christi, and he said, we're looking for musicians, but you have to go to San Antonio and audition. I said, okay, I can do that. So I went to San Antonio, and I talked to a Sergeant LaPlante. He was the chief sergeant there. And so I took my test, and he said, great. He said, we'd love to have you. He said, we just need a bass player, which is what I played. He said, we're next month, so that'll be right after your basic training.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, I can do that, but I don't want to be in San Antonio. And he said, well, we really would love to have you. He says, this is a great band. I said, I know, I've heard of it. And I said, let me think it over. So I went home, and about 10 days later, I got a phone call, and it was Sergeant LaPlante. He said, Danny, I think we have an opening for you. I wish you hadn't. He said, you haven't changed your mind about coming to San Antonio, you know, our band. I said, no. He said, I'll see you tomorrow at 8:00. I said, okay. So I drove down there, and I got in the band hall, and I was sitting there and waiting for him to finish another interview. And so I was sitting there, and this guy walks in, and he says, sir, can I help you? And I said, well, I'm waiting for Sergeant LaPlante. I said, I auditioned last week, and I'm coming back because I didn't want to be here in San Antonio. And I said, so he told me that there were some other available spaces now. He started laughing. He said, you must be pretty good. He said, we never have openings here. He said, somebody comes in here that's better than what we got, we take them. You know. And I said, well, what would you recommend? I said, if it was you, which base would you go to that has a good band? He said, without a doubt, Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls. He said they got a lot of guys that want to stay close to home, and they're from the Dallas area. And he said there's 2 or 3 guys up there that have auditioned here that I know have master's degree in music. Others have bachelor's degree. So he said, it's a great band. And I said, okay. So I went in, and Sergeant LaPlante, I said, I decided that if you have an opening in Shepherd, I'd like to go there. Right. He said, okay. So he signed me up and gave me the orders already, the contract that I was going to be assigned to Shepherd Air Force Base.
Right.
Without me being in the Air Force yet. So then the following week, I went to the recruiter, got my papers and everything, and came to San Antonio for basic training. And so they assigned us to this squadron, and so they gave us our uniforms, cut our hairs, and did the shots and everything, all the preparation and everything.
Right.
And after 3 days, this the guy came to our where we were, our bedroom, and he said, Daniel Aguirre, so-and-so, and so-and-so, staff sergeant wants to talk to you. So, we did something wrong already,
It just started, right? I just got here.
Yeah. So I went over there, and he said, there's a colonel here who is wanting to start a drum and bugle corps in San Antonio. We don't have one here. And since you guys are musicians, we'd like to, this is a voluntary thing. He said, from 6 weeks, you're going to be here for 2 months. And I thought, well, and he said, the good thing is you don't have to do KP duty. You don't have to do guard duty or anything except practice. And he said, and we're putting you in a brand new barracks. And where we practiced marching was, they had this, under the building, they had a cement floor.
Right.
So we never got out in the sun or anything.
And that was your dream right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Practicing, doing something you love to do.
Yeah. So we stayed there, and then all of a sudden they said, he said, I'd like to talk to these guys after about 2.5 months, right before we were going on a Christmas leave. And I had been there since October.
And you're already at Shepherd at this point, correct?
Huh?
Are you at Shepherd at this point?
No, I'm
you're
at San Antonio at basic training.
Okay, just wanted to,
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he said, guys, he said, we've chosen you guys to go to the Air Force Academy and be on the drum and bugle corps. He said, no, sir, we got orders here, for the band already. We don't want no drum and bugle corps, I had never been in a drum and bugle corps except there, and I hated it. But it got me out of duty that I didn't want. So I came to Shepherd Air Force Base, and we had a great band. Our day started at 8:30 in the morning, and it ended after we played Bringing the Flag Down. And that was a normal day. We would practice and do also other things. My other job was in supply. I did toiletries and administrative supplies. And we were in charge of playing at the ATC bases, which included Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas City. And then when the band from Biloxi, Mississippi was on vacation, we went all the way to Atlanta or Mississippi.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Louisiana.
So you were playing about, that's about 6-7 states?
I'm sorry?
That was about 6-7 states you were playing in?
Yeah.
You got 6-7 states. Wow.
Yeah. Plus, we also were substituting a couple of times for the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base band. And we had to go to Indiana and Ohio and whatever else, South Dakota. And so but those were only for change of commands or graduations. And whenever an ambassador from a different country came to congratulate their pilot students, we had to play their national anthem. So we played the German national anthem quite frequently, the Italian, and other countries. And so, but that was part of what we did. If there was a change of command, the new general, we would play for the old one,
right,
and play for the new one.
Right.
Funny deal. There's a celebration that I don't know very many people know about, but it's a celebration that occurs between San Antonio, Texas, and Mexico, or the United States and Mexico. When I was in high school, our marching band went to Laredo, and we would play on the parade there.
Okay.
And so when I was in the Air Force band, they called us from Laredo to go down there and play and participate in their parade. So we went there. Then next time they called us, and we went to Del Rio.
Okay, yeah.
The third time we went and we played in El Paso. When we were at El Paso, the mayor said, "Can your guys play about a concert for us across in Mexico at the park there?" We said, "Sure, And he said, "We'll give you free food, So we went there and played the concert. And so as we were packing up or finishing rather,
right,
he said, "Would some of your brass players like to play the entrance of the bulls at the bullfight? That's about 5 miles from here." And we thought, why not?
Why not? Exactly.
Playing for a bullfight?
I know,
sure.
It's a new experience. It's something different.
Yeah. So we went and we played the entrance for the bulls to come into the ring. And then we left. It got gory. It was
right.
It was horrible.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, let's incredible story. Coming a long way, especially some of the experiences you've got to go to. You talked about those other states that you played in, but talk about how. Before we get more in depth about that, talk about how you got into music. Was your family, musicians, or how did you kind of get your start? What got you into wanting to do what you did, in the Air Force?
Well, first of all, my dad was tone deaf. My mother was always whistling and humming and singing, in the morning when she was making breakfast for us. I had a cousin that was a professional musician. He had a trio tropical, and there were 3 guitars, and so I enjoyed, that kind of music. But I always loved music. Yeah, and so that's why when I got to college, I had from high school, and I had a scholarship, and I also had a scholarship on photography.
Okay. And
so music was my passion.
What college was this?
In Del Mar, in Corpus Christi.
Okay, Del Mar. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so, what did you play? Going up, you said you played bass with the Air Force band here, right?
Right.
So, did you kind of go between instruments, or like was
yes.
bass always kind of your okay?
No, because of the different bands that we had within the band. We had a marching band, a concert band, a jazz band.
Right.
I had a 5-piece brass Dixieland band for entertaining. We went to high schools and played concerts, PR stuff. And then we had a classical brass quintet. And I was the best tuba player, bass player in the band. I was pretty good at the upright bass because I had learned it in college, but I didn't know hardly anything about the electric bass guitar. But we had other guys. There were 5 bass players, and we all were good at each one of them, so that we just substituted for them whenever they were too busy doing things and that.
Right. And so, and being there too, I mean, like you kind of said earlier, you were helping a professor, for a little bit that you didn't like, but and so what kind of led you? You kind of talked about it a little bit, but what led you to kind of branch out into, getting really into the Air Force? Like you said, was your professor just getting out of the Army, or who did you say was just getting out of the Army then?
My teacher in 8th grade.
Yes, uh-huh. And
When I first got into band, he had just got dismissed honorably, of course, from the Army. He had joined the Army because the Army was only 2 years. If he had gone into the Navy, Army, or Marines, or Air Force and Marines, it would have been a 4-year gig. So he was married and had a child. So he didn't want to be, he told us he didn't want to be traveling someplace else.
Right.
And 2 years, that was his taste.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how did you find that for yourself? Like, how did you realize, that's something I want to get into? Because like you said, you were mostly playing, music, for the Air Force. How much did you really serve, or did you think playing the music was your service for this country? How did you see that?
Well, when I was in high school, I was in the Civil Air Patrol, which is an auxiliary of the Air Force. So I had been to Shepherd Air Force Base with a summer camp.
Okay.
So that's how I learned about the Air Force, and through Mr. Rumbley, my band director, I learned about the musical part of it. And since I was only in music, I didn't want to go to Vietnam and play up there, with a gun instead of a tuba. And so, and I loved classical music. I had been classically trained and playing in the jazz band also. Oh, okay. I played 1 year with the Corpus Christi Jazz Band, and we had a jazz band in college, and we played the Mardi Gras Ball, while the marching band played in the Mardi Gras Parade. So music has always been the love of my life, and God has given me an opportunity to make my life through music all my life. I have never received a paycheck from anything other than music.
Wow.
Except when I was 12 years old, I had a paper route.
Okay. So they're just throwing the papers out to the houses and everything.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And so, did you ever think that was possible for you? Leading up into whenever you talked with your band director about music and some form of fashion, with the armed service. Yeah. Did you ever think that was possible, or did you think it was just kind of like all war? Like you said, you wanted to play the tuba instead of play with the gun. Did you ever think that was possible?
I never thought it wasn't. God has always given me a dream that He opens the door for me. When I was in college, I was for food. I was working at the cafeteria. I didn't get paid, but I got free food. And after working there for about 6 months, the district superintendent was reviewing stuff there at the cafeteria, and the manager came over to me and says, "Danny," he said, "I want you to talk to this guy. He wants to talk to you." And he said, "I've heard good things about you working in the cafeteria and how well you do things." He said, "I'd like to offer you a scholarship to go to Sam Houston State. We'll pay for everything, your housing, and to be able to make you a manager of a cafeteria." I said, "I already got everything paid here in music." And I said, "I don't like, working in the cafeteria except for the food."
Right.
So that's, and everything has been a coincidence,
Why do you say that?
Well, I told you earlier, when I was in San Antonio, they were trying to take me away from coming to Shepherd by going to the Air Force Academy, and luckily I already had orders even before I was an airman, which is pretty rare, I think.
Right.
And so the only thing I had ever done that and I had played baseball. One summer I played semi-pro league.
Okay.
And so I had options, but music was what I wanted
Was
to
your
do.
calling?
That was where, my passion and my love was.
Mm-hmm.
And God afforded me so many things that it just happened naturally.
Right. And remind me, how long were you in San Antonio before you came up here to Shepherd?
I was supposed to be there for 6 weeks training, but
Mm-hmm.
when I joined the Air Force, the band or the Drum Bugle Corps, they extended it to double that,
Okay.
and then they kept us there, for until I didn't get to Shepherd until I enlisted in October the 5th, which was my birthday, and I got to Shepherd in January the 12th or 13th.
Okay. And what year was that when you got here to Shepherd?
Yeah, 60. It was about 4 months after my enlistment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 65
65. Okay. And then
or
from
66. I don't know.
and so from there, that's whenever you spent your 4 years here at Shepherd.
I spent 4
correct?
years here. Yeah, then they tried to get me to go to Alaska, and I said no, thank you. And so I was able to refuse that deal, and when we were when I was in the barracks, all the unmarried people, and they made me dorm chief, even though there were guys that had more stripes than I did. So like I said, everything was so easy.
Right.
In the barracks, because of that job, I took it because the barracks chief was the only one that had a room by himself. Everybody else had to share.
So you had to share a room with others too.
Yeah, I didn't have to because I was in charge, so
Right.
I had my own room.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so, what are as you're going through your time here at Shepherd,
Yeah.
what has kind of stuck out about here? Because you said it before. You came up here before through the Civic Air Patrol, right? When you were in high school. So what do you kind of remember? Was it similar whenever you came back after that, or what's something you remember really the most?
Really, we never got out of the base, so I didn't experience any of Wichita Falls.
Mm-hmm.
When I got out of the Air Force, I couldn't find a job.
Mm-hmm.
I went looking at grocery stores, Sears, whatever was available. Mm-hmm. And then my best friend, who was still in the Air Force, told me, he said, "Hey, Dan, I got you an appointment with Tom McCarty, who owns this big music store. He's looking for somebody." So I went and talked to him, and I got hired. And then he, in 77 or 78, he closed down the place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, well, my wife was still in the Air Force, I think, at the time. No, okay. So she
just confirmed
she's
that she's
still
over
there.
here.
Yeah. So she's a nurse,
Uh-huh.
so she was working at the hospital, and so I stayed there until he he closed the place down, and he helped me open up the Music Maker Show.
Okay. Nice.
And so I have made many friends. I wouldn't trade anybody that I've ever met for, well, maybe one or two.
I'm probably on that list, right? You
Yeah,
trade me.
absolutely. Yeah. No, Wichita Falls has a lot of military guys. I met one at work this morning.
Mm-hmm.
He was originally from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this town has been really good, very friendly. You can't go 2 blocks and not find a retired military guy that has settled here.
Right.
I worked at Interfaith Ministries as a counselor for about 12, 13 years. And I got to know a lot of people there. And like I said, everybody that I've ever met, I've been real blessed that have been good people that have helped me.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
none of this would have been possible. Whatever move I have made, either God sent people, or you know.
Right. And so, Dan, I mean, being here at Shepherd too, you're part of history. I mean, this paper that you brought, reading this newspaper clip, and Band of the Oil Belt,
Yeah.
Journey to Houston. So that was the band. Was that the
Yeah,
Air Force
Band
band
of
named
the
Oil
Oil
Belt?
Belt.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that name come about?
I don't know.
You don't know? Was that
But,
already
well, maybe because of this area being the oil belt.
right? So was that the name of the band? By the time you got here?
No, the 761st Air Force Band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's the band you were.
Yes, 761st.
And so, man, I mean, look at you, part of history. Shepherd's musical armada increased by 42 to 7,000 plus crowd assembled to welcome astronauts Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin, and Michael Collins at Ellington Air Force Base, Texas.
Yeah.
And you were there.
I was 14, 15 feet from the capsule.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
And their parents, their wives and family were between me and them. I was on the very end corner.
Wow. And so how did that come about? How did you find out that you were going to Houston to welcome them back to be a part of that history?
That was very funny because I think we had something planned for that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And on Friday we got a letter that said, we want you guys to be at NASA. And I'll go like, oh no, there goes our plans.
Everything's ruined.
Everything is ruined. I mean, a 22-year-old kid, I didn't want to be at the Air Force. I want to be with my family, my wife, and other kids, and whatever. And but later on, I realized how important that was. When we got there, it was like 12 hours that we were there waiting for them.
Wow.
And we kept playing every Moon song you could think of.
Yeah, it says right here, appropriate strains of Fly Me to the Moon,
Oh,
How High the Moon, and Moon River greeted the astronauts as they appeared at the crowd from the confines of their mobile quarantine facility. So some Frank Sinatra in there too. Fly Me to the Moon.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And that movie that had that ta-da, ta-da, ta-da.
Oh, mm-hmm. What movie is that? I think it says right here too. Space Odyssey?
Yes.
Yes, 2001 Space Odyssey, yes. And
Yeah.
So man, so like you said, plans ruined, where was that kind of where your mind was,
Absolutely.
You were just like, I don't want to be here. Like,
That's
I
right.
want to be, what I had already planned.
Yeah, I had this weekend off. Somebody ruined it.
And so, but you're part of history,
Well, I realized that later, like 10 years later.
And what do you think back? Do you think back on that and realize kind of now? And so
Yeah, now I appreciate it, and I think how lucky I was. I mean, that was I've heard news people, say that was voted the most historical event of the century.
do you believe that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish I had been older, and know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But now I thank God that I was part of a history that, to be 15 feet from it, my calculation is less than 1,000 people in this world were that close to them. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so, and being in the Air Force, when you enlisted, because obviously, like you said, all you wanted to do was music.
Yeah.
Do you think, in your opinion, that was your greatest service to this country, is being able to play for those astronauts when they came back?
No, because we played for other astronauts and guys that received medals, and we went to their homes, to their base where they received those medals, and we played for funerals, of guys that sacrificed their lives for us. Yeah. And it was a privilege.
Right.
And I enjoyed it.
Okay, I mean, like you said, I mean, all you wanted to do was music, and you
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
And how does that make you feel now? I mean, because like you said, a lot of guys, pay the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys who who went, did their tour and came back, possibly injured, wounded, maybe lost a limb, but
Yeah.
how's that differentiated for you, in terms of you serving your country through music instead of going, like you said, you didn't want to go to Vietnam. How does that make you feel?
Well, I had a friend, one of my best friends in college. He had gotten married in August. His wife was pregnant, and he was during the Christmas vacation. We all went homes, and after the vacation was over, he was from Westlaco, Texas, and we came back, and I said, "Where's Mac?" I didn't see him, and they said, "Well, he joined the Army." I said, "What?" Yeah, he said he joined the Green Beret unit. And I'm going, "That's great. What is he doing?" And they said his wife passed away. And she was pregnant. And he didn't want to live anymore. So he figured he'd take the worst job and the most chance that it would provide the best chance of him not coming back. And thank God, about 10 years later, I was at a music convention in Dallas, and I saw him.
Wow.
So, I had worried for 10 years and not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're in the military and you live during that period, you didn't have to be in the military to lose somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was a very hard time. I remember at Shepherd Air Force Base, a letter came down that if you were going to go into to travel during Christmas or whatever holiday it was,
right,
don't wear your uniform. He said, "Don't wear your uniform because other airmen and military guys have been attacked because of the hatred that they had for the military."
Mm-hmm. This was Vietnam time, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even the band, we're the nobodies. We had to take training controlling riots with rifles. Mm-hmm. We were military. Mm-hmm. That's when the military came in and the bandsman, musician went out the door. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, 99% of the time, we were just musicians in a uniform.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much, and especially your service, and I would say a unique way. It's something that I never really would have thought about. Playing, in a band, in the Air Force band. I think that's something unique that you don't ever hear about.
No.
And I think especially in doing this, hearing the stories when Joey's sitting down with them too, you're hearing different stories. You're hearing the stories of combat.
Yeah.
You're not hearing the stories like for you.
Yeah.
And everything too. And so,
my brother served 20 years in the Air Force and
wow.
during Desert Storm and Vietnam.
Wow.
20 years.
20 years. Wow. And so, and you just did, the 4 years, right? Did you go beyond that? You just did 4 years? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I couldn't, for the first 2 years, it was the most fantastic ride in the world. Mm-hmm. But when I got married, things changed. Mm-hmm. I had grown up basically without a dad because my dad was a truck driver.
Okay.
For Mayflower, and he was gone a lot of times. He hardly ever, I don't think he ever saw me play a concert, or baseball, which were my two passions. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I can't do that to my kids. I want to be home.
Right. And so, your time here at Shepherd, looking at this newspaper clipping, it says the band's regularly scheduled Tuesday night concert at Birdwell Park. So,
Yes.
so y'all got out, and played, some of those concerts, especially for the community. What was that like?
That was very good. We enjoyed playing there. One thing they don't mention there in the newspaper ad is that we also played for the intermission during the Oklahoma-Texas rivalry game. I forgot the name of it.
The Oil Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay, so you played the Oil Bowl too?
We played the Oil Bowl a couple of years in a row.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anytime that there's in parade, Memorial Day or rodeo parades, we played. I lost it, but I got a. They gave us a poster of the 50th anniversary. I think it was in Henrietta for their.
The Pioneer Reunion.
Yeah.
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 Pioneer Reunion.
I lost it.
And so, I kind of want to go back to your NASA trip because I'm just realizing this looking at the newspaper clipping too, capping the visit that y'all did, playing at the Houston Astros and Philadelphia Phillies game. So how was that? You said you got to see both things. You got to play, be a musician, but also catch a baseball game. How was that? How was kind of that? And
that was great.
Was Houston the team you grew up watching, especially growing up by Corpus? Or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, they knew that we were going to be at NASA, and so the PR guy called our commander and said, "Hey, how would you guys like to play the national anthem? On the next day." And so we said, "Sure," and because it was the eighth wonder of the world.
Oh, the Astrodome. That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's true.
And so we went out there, and I don't know how. I have some cousins that live in Port Arthur. And when we were going down the tunnel, they go, "Hey, Danny!" And I thought, what are they doing here? And so we got in, and boy, I loved the introduction. Just recently played for the astronauts, the 761st Air Force Band. We come through,
Right.
man, and everybody stood up and applauded.
Wow.
Yeah, and also the previous year, San Antonio had the World's Fair.
Okay.
In 1968, it was the World's Fair was held in San Antonio, and we were invited to play a concert there also.
Wow.
And they told me I had to get up and speak in Spanish, introduce the band. I thought, I haven't used Spanish that much. I didn't know English when I grew up.
How'd you do, Rusty? How'd you feel you did?
I just said, mucho gusto por estar aquí. The 761st Air Force Band. Bye. I remember getting up because they said, so I got up from the chair, and I don't remember walking around, standing on the microphone, seeing hundreds maybe of people, just all over, and I'm going like, what? I don't remember going back. I thought, oh, thank you, God, it's over.
It's over.
But so many different pleasures, from just being in the band, the experiences, even planes on fire. We had to come in on a plane on fire one time, so, and we had to avoid a trainer one time when we were taking off from Shepherd. We were going up, and the plane was coming right at us, and he went like 45-degree angle in 10 seconds.
Wow.
So yeah, there was a bunch of excitement and stuff.
Well, Daniel, we wanted to, again, here at MAVA, want to thank you so much, and not just for your service, but sitting down and letting us hear your story, and letting your story get told, for people who want to hear stuff like this, because again, you bring a unique perspective, because like I said, and I'll say it again, the stories we hear sometimes, it's people who did their tour, and served, and again, I never thought, being able to be a musician and serving your country was an option now. And so again, thank you for all that you've done. And again, thank you so much for joining us here at MAVA headquarters. But is there any last thing you want to say before we kind of wrap up here? Do you think we kind of talked about everything you want to talk about?
Well, I met my wife in the Air Force. She was a second lieutenant nurse, and that was a blessing that has happened for the past 55 years.
Wow, 55 years. Congrats.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really great. Well, Daniel, again, thank you so much for your time and joining us here today.
Thank you for asking me.
No problem at all. And thank you for everybody that's watching on YouTube and across Texoma. Again, ask yourself, what have you done for your country lately? Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.